How to make ocean pop socket and ocean phone cases. Hi everyone, it's Yushin and welcome back to another craft tutorial. Here's a list of the materials that we are going to need in this video. We are going to start with taping masking tape around the phone cases and also around the pop socket. This helps prevent resin from running along the phone cases. We will be using epoxy resin. I will explain the differences between using epoxy and casting at the end of the video. And you're just going to stir the resin until it's really well mixed. Make sure that you're scraping the side while mixing. After your resin is well mixed, you're going to put it into 3 different cups and you're going to add color to it. You could use acrylic or resin ink, but I find that acrylics works better for ocean themed stuff because it's thicker and therefore easier to control. After you put the color onto your pop socket, you're going to torch it to remove all the bubbles. The color is going to start moving into each other as you heat your resin up, and that will create a really nice transition between the colors. After doing the pop socket, you're just going to do the same thing for the phone case. But make sure when you are torching the phone case, you're doing it really gently because you don't want to burn the plastic phone case underneath. And then you're going to take off the masking tape and then clean the edges. After the cleaning, you're going to leave it on a really flat surface and then cover it with something to prevent any dust from falling into the resin. And one day after, it's going to cure. Once it hardens completely, you're going to apply a second layer. So you're going to start by applying a clear layer of epoxy and gently torching it to reduce all the bubbles. Then you're going to add a really thin stroke of white. Make sure that you are using acrylic when mixing this white because acrylics would make the resin thicker and it is easier to create a center line using thicker resin than liquidy resin. If your white resin is too thick, it won't look as good. For example, the phone case that I'm doing right now, I added too much white so it doesn't look as natural. After applying the white, you're going to use a heat gun and blow the white towards you. After the second layer cures, you're going to apply a third layer. You are repeating your steps in the second layer. This time, you're going to only apply the clear layer of resin halfway through the wave. So not all the way up, but halfway through. And you can make as many layers of wave as you want. But if you're wanting to do more layers, you may want to start the first layer at the very top instead of the middle. Once you are done creating all your layers, you're going to apply a clear layer of epoxy on the very top of all the other layers. And the reason why you want to be using epoxy instead of casting is because epoxy cures faster than casting, and therefore you don't have to worry about dust getting into your resin while waiting for it to cure. And also you get more control of the resin. Epoxy is also harder than casting after it dries, and therefore it is more scratch resistant. The reason why you want to be using epoxy instead of casting is because epoxy is thicker than casting resin, so that you don't have to worry about the color mixing into each other on its own. If you are going to make this with casting resin, you're going to make sure that you wait for about 5 to 6 hours before you actually pour the color onto the phone case to ensure that the resin is really thick when you pour. It is also really important to clean your case as you work. This case right here is fully cured, but it is not cleaned well while I was working, so I would have to sand the surface a little bit and then pour another clear layer on top. This would ensure that I have a really clean finish. And that is it for today's tutorial. I hope you learned something.